About 24 hostages of the militant group Boko Haram have escaped or been freed after a weekend abduction in Cameroon.
The attack took place in Mabas, a village in the northern region of Cameroon, Sunday. It was the largest kidnapping yet in Cameroon, and a total of 80 hostages were taken. CBS News correspondent Debora Patta joins us with more on the phone from South Africa. Deborah, what more do we know about this latest abduction?
Well, sadly, a large proportion of the hostages taken were children. Now, this is not new to Boko Haram. We've seen it before. Remember, their most infamous kidnapping being that of over 200 Chibok schoolgirls last year, just before they were about to write their final exams. They're still missing, but it is new in neighboring Cameroon and poses a huge threat to the region. Boko Haram has set bases up in Cameroon, and borders between Nigeria and Cameroon are extremely porous. Just a few weeks ago, in his most recent video, we saw the leader of Boko Haram, Abubakar Shekau, singling out Cameroon's president, Paul Biya. He said that if he continued what he called this evil plot, he would suffer the same fate that Nigeria and the United States had suffered. Certainly the suggestion that Boko Haram could export its conflict in full to Cameroon as opposed to occasional cross-border raids.
Now, this terror group, they still have hostages with them. I'm wondering, what are they hoping to get out of this? Are they trying to get money by having these hostages? Are they trying to recruit new soldiers? Why take these hostages?
It's a number of things. The one is money. Sometimes they do sell hostages for a ransom. But in this particular instance, given that it's residents from a local village who are going to be extremely poor, that won't be the case. We've seen an increasing desperation on the part of Boko Haram over the past weeks. The use of children, some as young as 10 years old, as suicide bombers. Again, this indicates, as you pointed out, that they are battling to recruit. And according to security experts that I've spoken to, children are in ready supply in Boko Haram camps. They're the orphan children of the fighters of Boko Haram who've been killed in the conflict, or young school children taken as the spoils of war, exactly as we've seen now again in Cameroon. If there are children there, they could be forced to possibly be on the front lines of the conflict. The group's tactics have grown increasingly brazen, and it seems that that's turning people off. They cannot get people to join them, and hence the use of children.
Now, are the governments of Nigeria and Cameroon underestimating Boko Haram's reach? Is that what's happening here? Is it fair to say it's larger than anyone is able to admit?
Well, not so much underestimate, I think, well, certainly as far as Nigeria is concerned, but more given up. Nigerians themselves sometimes wonder what's worse, the feeling that the world has forgotten about them, or the indifference of their own government under President Goodluck Jonathan. Think about the Nigerian military. It's woefully under-equipped. It complains that it is outgunned, outmanned by Boko Haram. There have been reports of soldiers having to buy their own uniforms. And it's the beleaguered 7th Division that's actually responsible for fighting Boko Haram. But instead, we saw last year that over 50 of its troops were sentenced to death for mutiny, refusing to fight this terror group. And in the interim, almost as if the world hasn't been watching, virtually another state has come to exist. Boko Haram controls territory roughly half the size of Iceland. It wants an Islamic state in the north of Nigeria, and steadily through this brazen campaign of terror and extreme violence, it is quickly seizing more and more land. And in the process, last year alone, 11,000 people were killed, over 1.5 million displaced. And remember, it's an election year in Nigeria, so we can only expect this violence to get worse.
A growing threat. Debora Patta, thank you for joining us.